Hey guys, Level Cap here, and today we're at E3. This is the convention center in Los Angeles, and check it out. Battlefield 4, front and center. Of course, Battlefield 4 isn't the only game at E3, but it is one of the bigger ones. However, this big robot here belongs to Titanfall. And I gotta say, if you haven't watched the trailer to Titanfall yet, go do yourself a favor and check that out. It looks pretty amazing. They also have plenty of the other kinds of games there, dancing games, Just Dance 2014 with some weird zombie up on the screen showing people how to dance. But I know what you guys are here for. You're here for some Battlefield 4. And right when you walk in the front doors, that's the first thing you see is Battlefield 4 and 64 computer setup for some multiplayer action, plus the commander chair. And check this out, this big multi-monitor setup here is the commander mode. Now normally you're probably not going to have this many monitors, but it was pretty cool because the extra monitors were feeding your squad commanders views, so you could actually see what your squad commanders were doing. And yes, I did get to play the commander quite a bit. In fact, Daskro and I were facing off against each other as rival commanders for one game, and it was quite a bit of fun. Now I'll get more into commander mode in a second, but first I want to talk about the feel of Battlefield 4. If you like Battlefield 3, if you're comfortable in Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4 is going to feel right at home, but a little bit more refined. The netcode has been updated. I don't know the exact changes that have been made. In fact, I was talking to some devs about it and they couldn't give me the details, but they can confirm that the netcode has been updated and sort of refined quite a bit, so hopefully we can get a little bit more slick gameplay, not so much rubber banding or dying behind corners. I didn't really notice much of that while playing here. Particles and explosions have definitely gotten a huge facelift. Explosions just feel much more impactful. Suppression doesn't seem quite as annoying visually anymore. Screen shake doesn't seem quite as annoying anymore. They've just really refined a lot of the little visual touches. I mean, I'm sure there's thousands of little updates here and there that by themselves don't make a huge difference, but together the game is just feeling a lot slicker. One cool thing is that bullet tracers seem to be a bit more visible, and you can actually watch your bullet drop in the distance. I was firing with a tank's heavy machine gun quite a bit, and you could notice the bullets dropping at a distance, and it added an extra bit of challenge for trying to hit ranged targets. And I noticed this especially when driving a tank around and shooting across the river in Shanghai, or the siege of Shanghai. And I gotta say, tanks are pretty fun to drive now too. They look virtually identical. Of course, it's the Abrams tank. They seem to drive a little bit more cumbersome. The turning rate is a little bit slower, and they feel more realistic. I think it's going to make tank drivers have to sort of anticipate where they drive into a little bit better, because backing up, turning, that sort of thing is just a little bit more cumbersome, and it means if you drive yourself into the wrong alleyway without really thinking about it, you could be in a world of hurt. Whereas in Battlefield 3, as long as you knew how to get out of there, you could kind of back up and finagle your way out of something pretty quickly. I think Battlefield 4 is going to try and it looks like it's trying to put some of the power back into the infantry players' hands. Again, with the limited ammo capacity, I went on a 19 kill streak using my Abrams the first game I played, and then I ran out of primary ammo and I had to switch up to my machine gun. You do, however, get infinite ammo with the machine gun on tanks. Now, I was trying to do a little bit of class research. Unfortunately, I only played for about 15 minutes. It was a real quick round, and then I got a little bit more commander time. But it seems like the classes are a little bit unfinished now, so I don't want to speculate too much. For example, the assault class seemed to have 2 different kinds of med packs, and the descriptions were almost identical, so it was hard to tell if one did something different than the other. Honestly, I think they're still just kind of designing the classes, and there was some overlapping items and or descriptions in there. Alright, let's talk about Commander Mode. I did get to play a full round of Commander Mode using this awesome command center here. Now, the exterior monitors around here are not something that's going to be really available when you're playing Battlefield normally at your home. These monitors were basically just showing me the actual feeds of my squad leaders on the other computer, so I could see their first-person perspectives all the time while I was commanding. This is something that you're not necessarily going to get, at least in this same format, when you're playing as the commander. However, you will notice in the bottom left corner of the main screen, you do get a little window that is going to show you a video feed that changes depending on what you select. You can get a video feed of specific points on the map. You can get a video feed of your squad leader's first-person perspective. You can get a video feed of a Tomahawk cruise missile, like coming in to hit its target, or an AC-1 gunship, AC-130 gunship, bombarding the ground with artillery fire. So I gotta say, the interface looks great. It's not quite finished yet. They are planning on putting in hotkeys, I believe, to help speed up some of the command process here. Let's talk about some of the commander's abilities here. So a lot of your abilities are tied into capture points. So depending on what points your team captures, you will get different abilities. Like Tomahawk cruise missile and AC-130 gunship are tied to capture points. So if you don't control those capture points, you can't use those abilities. Now, the multiplayer trailer has already kind of demonstrated how the cruise missile works. You basically can select an area of the map, target it, fire the cruise missile, and once it's in flight, you really can't change its trajectory. So you have to really time your attacks well. It takes, I would say, maybe 10 to 20 seconds for the cruise missile to get there. I know that's kind of a vague time estimation, but you really do have to time it well. Now, the AC-130 gunship is something that you can deploy to encircle a certain area. Now, once it's encircling that area, it won't actually do anything on its own. Your teammates then have the ability to spawn into it, providing covering fire, just like the AC-130 gunship in Battlefield 3. It's just something that's not going to exist until the commander actually deploys it down in an area, and the commander can decide which area that gunship is actually going to have a field of view. Commanders also get some cool intel abilities. One of them is the UAV. You can select an area to deploy a UAV, and it will basically ping anybody in that area on the minimap and or 3D spot them. So it's going to make it very easy for your teammates to know where bad guys are when they're assaulting a point. I like this ability. It really allows the commander to anticipate where hot zones are going to be, or put it down in big battles and really help your team sort of sway that battle in their favor. Now, the exact opposite of UAV is a EMP UAV, and what this does is you deploy it in a specific area and it will make any of your teammates invisible for 3D spotting and on the minimap. In fact, it'll even counter the abilities of a normal UAV. This is great if your team is about to assault a point that you know there's a lot of enemies defending. You can basically make them invisible to radar spotting or 3D spotting, giving them a pretty big tactical advantage. You also get a complete scan that allows you to do one full sweep of the entire map, showing you where the enemies are. This allows the commander to sort of get a good lay of the land and decide where you want to use your abilities. All your abilities have cooldowns, so you want to make sure you use them in the appropriate spots and at the right times. To be an effective commander, deploying a UAV at the exact moment can make or break an entire battle. Lastly, there were a few grayed out abilities that have not yet been implemented into the game, but they are in the menu interface, and I asked about these. One of them is a vehicle drop, and it's going to allow the commander to decide where you want to drop some backup armor support. Now, this could be anything from a transport vehicle to potentially a tank, depending on what the devs decide. The other one was a supply crate drop. Traditionally, in Battlefield 2 and Battlefield 2142, the supply drop would repair vehicles, heal infantry, and replenish ammo. So this is basically a universal crate that's going to be really helpful for both infantry and armor. In fact, it's very helpful for armor, especially considering now that vehicles have limited ammo supply. To keep your armor push going, commanders are going to have to use supply drops very effectively. Anyway, there's plenty of more information about Battlefield 4. These were the main things I wanted to cover, the main things that I noticed while playing in my limited playtime. I hope you guys enjoy this, and I'm going to have plenty of more Battlefield stuff coming from E3. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.